Dan Lanning says Oregon's done in the portal. I'm here for it. I did wonder about something from Saturday, though.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. There's a lot to get to from spring football today. A lot to get to. I have so many takes, reactions, and all that sort of stuff. It's all coming up on today's show, which is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. So, Dan Lanning was asked about the idea of adding more transfers, particularly at linebacker, and he echoed what Brian Michalowski had previously said, the linebackers coach, that, yeah, that's not going to happen. I love it. I absolutely love it because I really liked what I saw from that linebacker unit on Saturday in the spring game. I thought they looked fast. They were making plays. They looked instinctual. They did some nice things in coverage, but I thought particularly playmaking in the backfield, that unit looked ready to go. And I like that for two reasons. I did wonder about something else that Lanning had said, and no, not his response to James Creppier's question. But, I pondered that, but not for today's show. The reason that I like it is not just that Oregon recruited the linebacker position pretty heavily in 2024, bringing in 3 4-star guys, and you'd like for them to be ready. But I think that the staff saying the same thing doesn't surprise me, of course, but seeing that they are not just relying on the portal for this, that, and the other thing. There is not a single transfer portal player at the linebacker spot. Now, I'm not someone who is anti-transfer across the board. I don't know what the threshold is exactly with regards to how much of your roster should be made up of transfers and what about multi-year transfers, is that different, and all that sort of stuff. But I do think that the ability to recruit, coach, develop, play, work into the rotation is still the foundation of every college football team. Ohio State last year won the national championship, right? Most of their team, not all, certainly not all, not their quarterback, not one of their running backs, not their best defensive player in Caleb Downs. There were some major portal pieces, but still, this is the foundation of it all. You got to recruit kids out of high school. They're not going to play right away most of the time. And then you got to be able to get them ready to go by their second or third season, which is what we're going to see in this linebacker room. So I thought the guys looked good, and I think that, having that mindset, I understood what Brian Michalowski said a while ago, which is, well, what does it say about me if we have to bring in a transfer? Well, any position coach could say that. I think that was more just air cover for the moment because there are 4 guys that are waiting to get their chance to play who are in their second or third season at the linebacker position. It's not as if Oregon is shy about adding transfers, nor do I think there should be. I just think when you have stacked that sort of talent, you don't want players to start to see, they just are going to bring in a transfer and it's really hard for a young guy to crack the rotation. Certainly that's going to happen. Anytime a transfer comes in, that means a young guy is not going to get the step forward in playing time that maybe he would like. It also probably means that transfer is better or he's not ready. And so if you had 4 homegrown linebacker recruits that are going into either their second or third season, most of them their second, Jerry Mixon, who I thought looked the best of all of them, is going into his third with the Ducks. If those guys weren't ready, that'd be kind of concerning. And so the recruiting aspect of all of this, I think it's good to have an entire position group that, it is all homegrown recruits. Because what it tells me is that the staff is not looking at, we got to have this number of transfers or this many of high school kids starting. They're trying to assess the situation on a case-by-case basis and say, we feel like there's a better transfer here, and we don't feel like there's a better transfer there. The best linebacker available in the portal anyway, and the portal is closed to enter, but remember, guys can come out of the transfer portal at any time, is Amari Campbell, who played over 700 snaps last year for North Carolina, had a PFF grade of 72 and a pass rush grade of 84, only 61 in coverage, but overall, that's someone who is more experienced than any of those guys. But the other reason that I really like hearing this from Dan Lanning, that they're not adding a transfer linebacker, that they're done in the portal altogether, is you got to recruit guys at some point. Like, it's just kind of the show host in me, frankly. Like, we recruit, we follow these guys' recruitments. They commit to Oregon. We see the potential. They don't play at all the first year. The redshirt, they're going to play eventually, right? Like, that's honestly the other side of it. Now, with regards to the portal, the one thing that Lanning did talk about, I think he said going into halftime of the spring game, I hope we don't have to punt this year. This was a consideration that I gave. Punters move in the transfer portal more than you would probably think. But, one thing that I got a couple of notes from people from, and it certainly I noticed watching the spring game, the punting was not good. It wasn't all bad. Like, I'd gotten a lot of messages about it before I'd watched the game. And then when I watched it, I thought, all right, that wasn't good, but it wasn't bad per se. I thought the kickers mostly looked really good as well. But the punting situation, it was just a bad day. That's what it was. Last year, Terrence Ferguson had 2 or 3 drops in the spring game. Did you have any problems with Terrence Ferguson at the tight end spot last year? Like, nah, it's spring ball. He probably just had a bad day. So I just wanted to remind everybody out there who saw, Lanning's comments and watched the spring game and thought, well, maybe they need a transfer punter. Luke Dunn, of course, transferred out of the program in the spring portal window. But Ross James is still in there. And Dunn was someone who was more of the pinpoint guy who came in on shorter punts to try to nail him inside the 5 and, did so successfully on a couple of occasions. But just as a reminder for any of you pondering, well, maybe they need to add a punter in the transfer portal window. Ross James is going into his 4th year of college football. It'll be his 3rd starting with the Ducks. Last year, he averaged over 45 yards per punt. He averaged just under 41 yards on the net. He had 7 punts down inside the 20 and a long punt of just under 70 yards. So this is not somebody who he was in punting average, by the way, he was 18th nationally. So that was definitely one of the concerns that came out of the spring game. I was like, man, why were there so many? He had a bad day. He's a veteran. I'm not super worried about it. Just like I'm not super worried about the fact that Evan Stewart didn't play. I mean, from an injury standpoint, sure, I'd like for Evan Stewart to be healthy and playing football. This is a guy who has played 2 years in the SEC, and this past year at Oregon, I didn't need to see and have confidence instilled in me a spring game performance from him because I know what Evan Stewart is. I know what Ross James is as a punter. Oregon's not going to have that problem. This is the Big Ten. Oregon does play at Iowa this year, which is maybe the biggest trap game on the schedule. I don't know. Haven't made that declaration just yet, but certainly is one of the tougher games that Oregon has on its schedule this year. So the punter is going to come into play. At some point, as good as the offense can be, you're going to have to punt in that Iowa game, maybe a little bit more than normal, but I think they will be just fine. So Oregon does appear to be done in the portal. I think Lanning's sincere in saying that. And after watching the spring game, I said going into it, they could add a transfer at linebacker, just a veteran depth piece coming out of the spring game. I can still make that argument. I don't see it as big of an issue, potentially, because I watched the 4 linebackers that are competing to take a step forward in playing time this year, and I thought, guys look pretty good. Jerry Mixon looks really good. Braden Platt looks solid. Dylan Williams is all over the place. Like, are they going to be all conference players this year? I think Mixon would have a better chance than the other guys, frankly, just because he's had an extra year of football. But overall, I think they're pretty set. And at punter, it was not a good day, but I don't think they're adding a transfer there. So I think we can close the book on Oregon's transfer portal cycle in the class of 2025. I like it a lot. Might dive into them more as the May and June months roll along, depending on how much recruiting news Oregon gets. But yeah, I think Oregon's done in the portal. I'm glad that they are. And I'm really excited to see what those guys can bring to the field this fall. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. So, going to do something fun, not just today, but this week on the show. And you can still be a part of this. Send me a take or a feeling, a reaction, a thought, whatever, and I'm going to grade it on a scale of 1 to 10, how much I agree with it, and then I shall explain why. Some people were down on the quarterbacks. Those are going to be some low numbers from me. First, this episode brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. I've used Game Time for a sporting event. I've used it for a comedy show, and the best part is the all-in pricing. No surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. That's one of, if not the best part about Game Time. It doesn't tack on at the end. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It's time to react to takes. I came up with this idea because I got a lot of takes, reactions, thoughts, comments, all that sort of stuff. I particularly got a lot of thoughts from my Locked On Ducks insiders over there, who I asked for some takes from, got them, and we're going to kind of rapid fire these off. We'll see how long I spend on each one. So we're going to get the not as optimistic takes out of the way, and then we'll get to the more optimistic ones as this goes along. So based on the spring game, one of you said that you weren't overly impressed with the defense or the quarterback play. I'm going to go right off the bat with a 1 because I liked both of these things. I thought all 4 quarterbacks were really impressive. And by the way, I am open to debate, hence the whole premise of this show and me engaging with your guys' questions and thoughts. So let me know why you feel these things. But I thought the defensive line looked really good. I thought there were a lot of playmakers in the secondary. I thought the coverage was really good, and passes just got completed because they were precise and accurate down the field. I thought there were a lot of really good things. The defense definitely had a couple of iffy moments. You know, the Jaden Lamar touchdown, not a great, they called a corner blitz, so the safety was then pulled out of the middle of the field, and Mateo got blocked by Janoris Wilson. It was a really good block from him at right tackle. And Braden Platt got caught up in the wash inside, and then there was nobody home. And then on the long slant to Dylan Gresham, I don't know what Peyton Woodyard was doing. Now, I can go on the offensive side as well and say, oh, these weren't great moments. This wasn't very good. Overall, I thought the defense was good. I thought the quarterbacks were great. I talked about that on yesterday's show. One of my biggest takeaways was all 4 quarterbacks looked really good. Dante Moore's interception was on a Hail Mary at the end of the game. Like that's not affecting, if you were to just look at his stat line and say, oh, he threw an interception. No, didn't see that. I got another take. Dante Moore looked disappointingly like the same guy who played at UCLA. Again, this is a 2. This is not a 1, but this is squarely a 2. I didn't see bad decision making. I did not see, he tried to kind of tackle Blake Purchase, who wasn't having anything of it on the scoop and score. I did not see, and I didn't see those signs. Now, is it different when you're going against, guys in a scheme that you see in practice all the time? Sure, it is. But the problem that Dante Moore had at UCLA was he kept throwing the ball to the other team. He didn't do that except for a Hail Mary here. I didn't see the bad decisions. I didn't see a guy who wasn't aware of how much time he had in the pocket, which was also a problem at UCLA. He got the ball out of his hands. He made decisive reads. He was accurate. He threw the ball down the field several times. When he did have pressure in his face, he got the ball away before, he might have been hit. Because there were obviously a couple breakdowns in protection along the offensive line. But no, I don't agree. Don't agree with that one either. And again, I'm getting all the negative ones out here. I get that you can have this sort of reaction, but I'm just not in agreement with you guys. That's okay. Because another take that came in was Novosad looks like he has grown. Fact check true. But lots of room to grow. No confidence in either him or Dante to be the guy. Well, one of them's going to be the starter. That just depends on what you mean by the guy. I'll put this one at level of agreement. Can I split this up? I can because it's my show. Novosad looks like he has grown. 8 out of 10. Yeah, I'm in pretty darn solid agreement there. That he looks like he's grown. He looked comfortable. He was operating the offense well. The deep ball accuracy was really good. No confidence in either one of them to be the guy. I feel like either one of them could actually. So yeah, I'm gonna go back down to a 2 on that one. So those are the negative ones. We've gotten them out of the way. I thought the quarterbacks showed themselves very, very well. I was happy with how they played. And I thought they all did, things a bit differently. But overall, I mean, that deep ball from Novosad to Decorian Moore, that is a high-level throw. The deep ball Dante Moore at Jurion Dickey, high-level throw. Like A+ on the quality of throw given the difficulty of the situation. So, yeah, all right. So those were the more negative one. Now we're going to have a little bit more agreement here. One of you sent in that Luke Mogan and Achilles Smith look great. 10 out of 10. I could not agree more. I did not anticipate either one would look as good as they did. They both look comfortable, poised, strong arms, accurate placement of the ball. I like that a lot. Now, one of you came in with a hot take, at least an optimistic hot take. I'll give you that. Luke Moka has a legit chance to start. Okay, I'm gonna put this at a 4. Okay, this is a 4. This is a 4 out of 10 for me. The reason I say 4 is not because I think he has a shot to start necessarily. I think he could, with how competent he looked, have a role in a special Brian Bennett, Colt Lyerla type package. Lining him up next to Kenyon Sadiq would be fun. But I don't think, with Novosad and Dante Moore, you have two non-running quarterbacks. They're not immobile. Dante moves better than Novosad does. But Luke Moga is, as I said yesterday, the best athlete to play the quarterback position at the University of Oregon since Marcus Mariota. He has got more athleticism than Vernon Adams. He is faster than Justin Herbert. He is faster than Anthony Brown, even, who's a good athlete. Bo Nix, really, like he and Bo Nix are close in that regard. I think Moga is quicker. Bo Nix is certainly fast. That was part of the reason he was a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. But I think you could see, not that it's likely because we haven't really seen it in the past, but hey, new stuff is not out of the realm of possibility. If you get down to the red zone area and you've got like 2nd and goal from the 5 and you put Luke Moga on the field and have him orchestrate a quarterback run, you get him on the edge. It's going to be tough to catch up to him. So I can see it. I could see it. That's the only reason I put that at a 4, though. Chance to start. I think this is going to be one of the third-year guys, Dante Moore. Novosad, I suspect Dante Moore. One of you thinks that there's a smaller gap between Austin Novosad and Dante Moore than some people might previously thought. I am at about a 7.5. I'm bumping that up. That's 8.5. I strongly agree with that sentiment. And it's a great revelation for the Ducks. You never know because, of course, no one ever plans to get hurt. You never want anyone to get hurt, of course. Novosad's going into his 3rd year. He's been with Will Stein since Will Stein arrived. Stein helped recruit him coming out of high school and flipped him from Baylor when Oregon lost Dante Moore to UCLA. There should be a high level of familiarity, and it looks like there was, between Austin Novosad and this offense and his offensive coordinator. He sat there and watched Bo Nix run it for a year. He sat there and watched Dylan Gabriel run it for a year. He should be the backup quarterback. And that's a position. It's like any type of insurance. You never think about it until it's the most important thing in your life, and you have to have it. So, yeah, I think that there certainly is not as big of a gap, and I've pointed this out with Novosad all spring long. He was not recruited to Oregon to be a backup depth piece filler at quarterback. They didn't know Dante Moore was going to come back from UCLA to Oregon one day. Certainly they kept tabs on the relationship and hoped, But they couldn't possibly have known that. They recruited Novosad thinking this guy could be our starting quarterback one day. He looks that talented. And if Dante Moore starts this year, stays healthy, and comes back in 26, I'd fully expect Novosad to hit the portal. I wouldn't blame him because that guy looks like a starting caliber quarterback to me. He's beefed himself up physically from the time he was a freshman, and he just looks, he looked like a starting quarterback out there. Quick release, accuracy, decision-making. I liked a lot of the things that he did. So, yeah, I think that Dante Moore's ceiling is higher. He's got a little bit better arm with a quicker release, and he's a little bit more mobile. I don't think this is the same sort of gap that you'd have between, say, Bo Nix and, in retrospect, Ty Thompson. Like, when those two were on the same team, yeah, not close. Ty Thompson's now a tight end at Tulane. So that gap, not very big, or that gap was the Grand Canyon. This is not that. This feels to me like Darren Thomas, Brian Bennett. Darren Thomas, Brian Bennett. I mean, Brian Bennett started several games. You watched and you went, "Oh, that guy's good. that guy looks really good." So, yeah, I'm on board 8.5 with. There's a smaller gap than people might think between Austin and Dante Moore. Last one here for today, and there's still more of these that I'll get to on today and tomorrow's show. The O-line looks surprisingly good, though a bit inconsistent. I think the inconsistency is because you have mixed and matched units going up against defensive linemen that are going to start, like, Fox Crater a couple times got beat pretty bad. By who? Elijah Rushing or Mateo. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's not a reasonable expectation. So I'll go 7 with that. I thought there were some running lanes. I did think the quarterbacks had some time to throw to take those deep shots time and again. They hit some, they didn't hit some. I like the competitive balance going back and forth. Made me feel good about where Oregon's team is at. So, yeah, I too thought the offensive line, based on what I'd heard about it going into my viewing of the game, I'd heard, oh man, the D-line dominated. And I watched it and thought, well, I mean, the D-line was better, but I expected that and kind of thought the O-line held their own. So, yeah, I like that take as well. So if you've got a take, reaction, thought, emotion, whatever that you want me to react to here on the show, just drop in the comments or hit me up on Twitter. It's a more reliable way. Become an insider, all of that good stuff. What about the safety room? Lots of opportunities there. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I don't think there was anything to bet on the spring game, but for Oregon football in 2025, you got stuff. You've got national title odds, conference championship odds, a win total of 10.5. How do you feel? I don't think the over is as ridiculous after watching the spring game, just my takeaway, but with the NBA playoffs, right here, right now, you can get in on the action. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. It's all over there, so just ask yourself one question. What are you waiting for? Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com, claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Check them out at FanDuel.com. All right, evaluating a couple more of your guys' takes from the spring game, and then a quick basketball note to wrap up today's show. So, one Locked On Ducks insider said Aaron Flowers looks good enough to make the rotation. I agree. Flowers, who garnered a lot of attention late in his high school career, 4-star safety in the class of 2024, he was active. He was all over the field, made a lot of plays. He got burned by Kenyon Sadiq on the first play from scrimmage for Dante Moore in that beautiful corner route where they have the corner from the tight end and the double post over the top to clear the corner. It was a well-executed concept off of play action, and Dante Moore threw a beautiful ball to maybe Oregon's best overall receiving target, Kenyon Sadiq. That guy's just a freak, man. He's so good. Flowers, though, made a lot of plays downhill, which was kind of the scouting report on him coming out of high school. I think in coverage, he didn't have any plays that wowed me. He was all right. I agree with your assessment, though. I'll go with a 7 on this. That Aaron Flowers is good enough to make the rotation at a position that there are a lot of questions. Dylan Thieneman's a starting safety. We know that. Who's the other starting safety? Is it Flowers? Is it Kingston Lopa? Kingston Lopa had a moment where he was chasing after, I think it was Moga, it might have been more. Yeah, he was chasing after one of the quarterbacks in space on a rollout concept. Lopez looks so fast. I mean, like so fast. And Flowers look good. Flowers is bigger, kind of more that hybrid linebacker of sorts, but still has enough speed to play over the top, I think. I think that safety room, whether it's Lopa or whether it's Flowers or Trey McNutt, who was one of my top individual standouts from yesterday, who I thought did a lot of really nice things, I was really, really happy. Like, I felt solid. That's the term I'm looking for. I felt solid watching him play that, yeah, he could be a rotational guy. I definitely felt better about him than Peyton Woodyard, who I thought struggled in a couple of different moments. I felt like Flowers was solid. He was, getting attacked pretty heavily, guys he was covering or just being called upon to make tackles. But yeah, I mean, him flying downhill, that's when I feel like he's at his best. Reminds me a little bit of Cam Chancellor, and that's my Seahawks fandom coming out, who was a Virginia Tech guy. Chancellor was, a fine player over the top, but like he made his plays. He was the perfect cover 3 strong safety for that Pete Carroll defense because, they had their 2 outside corners. Earl Thomas would be the free safety over the top, but then you bring one safety down into the box. And that was always Cam Chancellor, who played better in that area. I think Flowers fits that mold. I think he's, from what we've seen so far, which isn't a ton, I think he looked like a better version of Bennett Williams, who, played and started for the Ducks in 2022. Had a lot of struggles, particularly in coverage. I think Flowers looks a little bit better. I don't think he is a high-end cover guy like Thieneman. I mean, Thieneman had that pass breakup against Decorian Moore on the first play from Novosad's team, which was the first play of the spring game. Yeah, Dante was the first play of his team's drive. But the pass to Sadiq earlier I mentioned. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, I hope. Thieneman didn't really do a ton after that. I think it's because the quarterbacks I don't want to throw in that guy's direction. And there were, more exploitable windows out there. So I think Flowers has a chance. I think between him, Lopa, and McNutt, those were the most impressive safeties that I saw out there. Another take that came in. I'm going low on this one. The defense couldn't tackle. That's a 3. That's a 3 for me. I mean, certainly there were moments where the tackling wasn't insane, but have you noticed how much skill Oregon has on the offensive side of the ball? It's a lot. Turns out those guys, hard to tackle. But I didn't watch the game and holistically come away feeling, man, they missed a lot of tackles in there. Like, I think the running backs, didn't had a tough time breaking long runs. There was Jaden Lamar's touchdown early on, which I mentioned earlier. That was kind of it. That was kind of it. I thought the tackling was pretty good. Certainly not perfect all the time, but I didn't feel like there was a recurring problem of missed tackles in there. So I'm a 3 on the defense couldn't tackle. So that was fun. I like that. So keep sending your takes. I've got more from my insider crowd I'll get to tomorrow, but send them to me, YouTube, Twitter, all that stuff, and I'll evaluate. I wanted to get you out of here with a quick basketball note because the offseason is still slowly progressing for Dana Altman and company. I'm not in panic mode at this time. I think they'll make a couple more additions. I think they need to. I did see something that was interesting. So Stephen Gillespie, who works for No Ceilings NBA. I don't know exactly what it is, but he's sending this out for a reason. The original tweet came from John Chepkovich. John Chepkovich, who's the director of scouting for DraftExpress.com. Just people that are in kind of the draft and online space. Said that Devon Pryor is going to test the NBA draft waters. He is an Oregon transfer commit from Texas who in his 2 years has not played a lot of basketball, but is 6'7" and really athletic. So I do not expect him to opt out of coming to Oregon and going to the NBA draft. That would be a messy situation for Dana Altman and company. What I do think, though, my first thought after seeing that that get tweeted out was, is that guy going to be better than I'm maybe anticipating? Now, I see the potential. It's there. 6'7", really good athlete, clean shooting stroke, can be lethal in the mid-range, and is a high flyer above the rim. He averaged 3 points per game last year at Texas. If somebody like that is doing anything with regards to the NBA draft, that tells me there might be bigger expectations for him to not just come in and start, but be a major contributor. So just something to keep an eye on there. We still have not heard anything on Nate Biddle. Fingers crossed he comes back. Still nothing on Paul Mbia, the Frenchman he's from the Congo originally, but playing in France, who also I think could go to the NBA draft, but I think would be pretty well served to spend a year or two playing college basketball. Those are kind of the biggest pieces that Oregon's been directly tied to that they're looking at. Andrei Stojakovic committed to Illinois, the Cal transfer. That would have been a perfect fit. Unless Devon Pryor is just that dude, we'll have to wait and see. But I think that's enough for today. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.